Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. Super excited to tell you about what we've been building at Chaos Labs. So let's get straight into it. Many of you may know us as a leader in on-chain risk management. We're going to talk about how that led us to building Edge, which is our new Oracle protocol. So first, before we talk about what Edge is, let's set it up for how we got here. At Chaos Labs, we've built a platform that does an automated on-chain risk management. So what does that mean? When you're interacting with applications like Aave, GMX, Jupiter, DYDX, you have a bunch of parameters that are changing in real time in line with the underlying market conditions. So is there more liquidity? Is there less liquidity? Is there a high concentration of wallets on the exchange? What does volatility look like? All of these need to go in and be computed every second in order to protect these applications from the ever-changing crypto markets. Now, we've been at this for a few years, and to date, the platform has secured close to $1 trillion in notional volume. Today, it's about 25 billion right now in terms of loans across the different lending applications that we secure. We've secured over 100 billion in loans over the years. And we also do incentive optimization, having distributed over 35 million in incentives across different ecosystems. So really, this actually is not a complete list of all of the teams that we have the privilege of working with. We're really lucky to work with the leaders across all major DeFi protocols and instruments. So in restaking, we have the privilege of working with EtherFi, lending, work with Aave. On the perp side, DYDX, GMX, Jupiter. And then stablecoins, we have Liquidity and a bunch more that we're lucky to call our partners. Now, the core of what we've built over the past 3 years, which extends Edge protocol, is that we want to enhance economic security and provide real-time risk management for these decentralized applications. The core of what we do tries to give you the same guarantees and assurances that you would have when you're interacting with a centralized financial instrument in terms of the risks that we're doing. But because everything is being executed in an asynchronous blockchain environment, all of the primitives need to be built from the ground up in order to support this. So if you believe that the future of finance won't be centralized, which I'm sure you do, otherwise you wouldn't be here at Token, it's not going to happen without best-in-class risk and Oracle infrastructure to support these applications and secure user funds. And this is what brought us to building Edge Protocol. Edge Protocol has 3 core components. The first is probably what you're most familiar with. It's a price oracle, right? They've existed since the beginning of DeFi, and we're taking it and putting a new spin on it, giving all of the partner protocols and users who adopt this extra value. The second is risk oracles. So the first few slides, we spoke about the risk platform we built. It existed in a siloed Web 2 infrastructure, and now we're putting all of that data as a stream on-chain, so applications, for the first time in DeFi, can update in real time. And the last is proofs. Typically, when you hear about a proof oracle, it's in the context of proof of reserve. But we're extending this concept to prove any off-chain arbitrary data, whether it's that the collateral that's backing your stablecoin exists, or the results of the US election, and packaging this into something cohesive and easy to use for the applications that are pushing innovation on-chain. So we started as this SaaS platform that was managing risk in real time for applications. Why did we build Edge? So, like a lot of the things that we do at Chaos, the #1 driver for all of this was demand for customers. So let me explain to you not only how risk works for Aave and for GMX and for DYDX, but for the industry in its entirety, right? So until today, and still today for applications that don't use us, all risk management is done manually, okay? This sounds crazy because crypto markets are more volatile and dangerous than traditional markets, and traditional markets are automated, but in crypto, we still weren't there. So that means when the market is swinging, you'll have a bunch of people in a Telegram group, a Discord, a Zoom call, scrambling to try and understand what to do. They'll create and craft a Solidity payload or whatever the programming language that's native to the blockchain that they're deployed on, and have to deploy it. Typically, the lead time between when we understand that a change needs to be made to a decentralized system to when it actually propagates on-chain was 72 to 96 hours. So this was something that was unacceptable for these applications and for the users, and it came with really strong demand from all the applications that we work with. The second core principle of why we built Edge is really this understanding that risk and price are inextricable. You can't talk about one without talking about the other. When we started Chaos Labs, the belief was that the most important thing that we had to take care of was understanding liquidity and market structure, right? Primarily market risk. You have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, and you have Solana, but you have hundreds and thousands of other tokens, and very quickly, the depth of these markets falls off, making it prime candidate for manipulation. And this is where we spent the first 2 years. But every single day, we kept on getting pulled into more and more war rooms with respect to oracles. People wanted to list new assets. They wanted to list LSTs. They wanted to list LRTs. They wanted to list stablecoins with various backings. How do you price this, right? How do you handle duration risk with an LST that has 7 days to redemption? Suddenly, we found ourselves doing a ton of financial engineering and advising these teams on how to compose their feed. So that's really where the risk and price thesis came together. And the second, which connected to this, is we weren't building the oracles, but we were definitely in every single war room when something was wrong. Most of the exploits that have to do with oracles, it's usually not a misprint. It's usually not some infrastructure going down. It's actually an economic exploit. So it could be that the market's being manipulated, or it could be that you're being arbitraged and your application has become a pristine destination for toxic flow. And we're there to help teams understand this and mitigate this. But there was this huge disconnect. We weren't designing the oracles, we weren't building them, and we were trying to put in all of these breaks and safeguards in place to make them not vulnerable to all of these different market exploits and attacks. So the rise of Edge protocol. We've actually been live for 3 months, right? And last week, we came out of stealth. The partner that we've been working with is Jupiter. It's the largest DEX in all of Solana. And over the past 3 months, Jupiter in itself has done over 60% of the total perp volume. All of that perp volume was secured by Edge. So in the past 3 months, we've processed over 30 billion in transactional volume. If you've placed a trade on Jupiter, it's been settled by our pricing. Now, kind of run-of-the-mill pricing is really important to be kind of stable and consistent, but oftentimes, these oracles and different mechanisms fall apart in the moments that you need them most. We had one of the worst single-day market drops in recent years on August 5th, with over 500 million liquidations that were processed on Jupiter, also by our oracle. So really, kind of this coming out of stealth mode for Chaos is a little bit different than some of the other announcements that you see when teams talk about their intention to do something. We're actually sharing with the world on this stage today what's already live and available to the industry at whole. Now we're going to speak exactly, we started in this world where we were doing risk, understood that we needed to do oracles, but where do they meet? Right? So we have this thesis that price and risk are inextricable. What does that look like in practice? So what it looks like in practice is integrating risk into the oracle itself. If you think about the first generation of oracles, they were great and they brought us to where they are today. But they have one fundamental issue. They serve as these reliable pipes from Web 2 to Web 3. And what they provide to you is an SLA. And the SLA says, hey, I'm going to give you the data that comes out of this API. I don't understand the data. I don't understand how it affects the application that's consuming it, whether it's a lending application, a stablecoin, or a perp DEX, but I'll provide it for you and you can figure it out. And this does not scale, right? Because this requires from teams to become experts in the data itself and be opinionated on a stack that they have very little control on. So the first thing we set out to do was understand that the price feed needs risk management integrated into it. The second is cross-chain and off-chain intelligence, right? So if our goal is to embed a risk engine into these price feeds, it's not only enough for us to understand what's happening in your ecosystem or within your application, we need to understand the broader market liquidity. Otherwise, how else are we going to know if this asset or if this market is susceptible to market manipulation? We'll speak about the proofs towards the end, which we recently announced a collaboration with Wintermute, where we're going to be powering their US election prediction markets that are set to go live in the coming days. And we'll talk about proofs separately. But what's important for all three of these, whether it's price, risk, or proofs, is that it needs to be easy to use, right? Like, we understand that teams want to innovate fast, they need to move fast, and we can't be requesting from them multi-month integrations. So we've also built that with this in mind. We'll start with price, and then we'll roll out to the things which are completely novel and new, right? So first of all, why are price feeds important, right? We're actually reminded of this almost every single week, unfortunately, right? There are different market manipulation attacks, there are different kind of arbitrage plays where folks are dumping toxic flow into applications and hurting LPs. And it's just a story that we hear over and over again. The biggest one, or at least in the Solana ecosystem, was the Mango Markets manipulation attack by Avi Eisenberg. But it's happened in Compound, and it's happened with CRV, in some of the largest assets that you can imagine. So first of all, when things are steady state, all is good. It might seem like these things always work, but when things get volatile, when there's a liquidity crunch, when you move away from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana and start trying to price these mid to low market cap assets, things can fall apart very, very, very quickly. Now, Edge addresses this, like we said, by embedding the risk model inside. So instead of providing a single data point of what the price is, we can also provide a price manipulation score, right? And that price manipulation score can be used by applications, however they see the best way to integrate it. And what we're seeing most is a kill switch, right? So if our algorithms are saying, hey, this is a 9.2 out of 10 on the price manipulation scale, applications take this and understand that it's time to pause the markets until liquidity improves broadly in the ecosystem. This could be the difference between an application that lives or falls like Mango Market did with a $200 million exploit. Now, all of this is like, I always like to tell the team, when we ship product and if nobody's using it, it's like a tree falling in a forest. If no one's there to see it, did it even happen, right? So we need to get this in the hands of developers, and that's why we've developed a super flexible GraphQL endpoint. So we're not forcing engineers and teams to adhere and rewrite their smart contracts to fit our schema. They can specify exactly which data in which structure they need from us, and our server will create it on the fly. This is a big unlock, right? Because for someone to use us, and this is why it was very fast with Jupiter and some of the other partners that we're going to talk to, out of the gate, our application met their needs in terms of the interface. So this is something new as well. Now, we spoke about price. We said that Jupiter integrated. Today, we're also proud to announce that GMX is live with our risk oracles. GMX is a pioneer in perpetual DEXs on Arbitrum and now expanding to other ecosystems. And they've really seen all of the issues that all of these DEXs face, especially in pushing the boundaries in the type of assets that they list on the market. And they really understood this pain point from day zero. We're keen on integrating it, and today we're live. So what is a risk oracle? Remember in the earlier slides, I initially said we have this platform, which is public, which would publish as a result of simulations the right configuration for a financial instrument or exchange in real time. But in the past, teams had to go and copy and paste all of these values, craft a payload, get it audited, maybe go through governance, and finally land it on chain. It meant by definition that every single parameter within their application was almost always stale, okay? Now, as a risk manager, for us, the North Star is, before we talk about kind of increasing flow and volumes, is to ensure that there's no bad debt. So what happens across the industry when you know that there's a 72 to 96 hour lag time and you don't have the ability to update in line with real-time market conditions? You take these extra buffers, okay? And these extra buffers, they culminate in worse execution and higher fees. You're overpricing volatility, you're overpricing liquidity, and generally overpricing risk because you want that margin of error, right? In case something goes sideways. Now, one of the things that we talk about often, and application developers understand, but it's something that isn't quite kind of known in the industry, is we're talking about scaling, we're talking about app chains and L2s and L3s in block space. But fundamentally, for all of the users on these DeFi platforms, if your execution is worse, which is the case because folks that don't use risk oracles have stale parameters, they're always going to have worse execution than their centralized counterparts and will never bridge that gap. Now, for the announcement that came out last week, we're serious about getting any off-chain data on-chain in a secure way full of integrity, and that's why we launched prediction markets. Prediction market oracles are already live with Wintermute and will power the prediction market for the US 2024 elections. We wrote a long post about this, and I'm running short on time. So for whoever's interested, I'm going to be in the back. And if you want to talk about prediction markets and resolving real-world events with AI, we'd love to continue the discussion. For anyone interested in Edge, we're on Twitter, we're on Telegram. Feel free to reach out. I'll be here with the team. Thank you for your time today, and I was glad to tell you about Edge. Thank you.